Hi there, and welcome back to the We Are KCS video blog. I'm here at Dobyns-Bennett today with Dobyns-Bennett science teacher Ms. Chris Kraut-Kramer. And Ms. Kraut-Kramer, you are doing some pretty innovative things and changing the way you are instructing science here at Dobyns-Bennett to kind of meet some needs, and it's really paying off. What are you doing that's different now maybe than you have before, and why are you looking at things in a different way?
Well, I think we do everything differently. So the main things we do that are different is because we have a large population of students who haven't had AP before. So instead of just being focused on the content, which we tend to be, we are also focused on the way that we learn science. So students read the textbook in class, they summarize. I'm working with our instructional design specialist to help with that. And then we have started retesting in groups. So that's my favorite of all the things we've done. And then one thing, I've taught 29 years. And that's made the biggest change in my practice.
Why did you decide to do that?
Because y'all brought Al in November to convocation. And he mentioned about a physics teacher in college who noticed that his students did better when they worked in collaborative groups, which we all know that, but we never do that during tests. So he had them test by themselves and then immediately put them in groups. They didn't know what the answers were and they didn't know what they'd missed, but he did. So he put them in groups and they took the test again together. And so they then talked about every single question. And that conversation that they have is probably the most remarkable thing I've ever seen as far as a change. To listen to kids talk about a question.
That's a much different way than we typically think about assessments looking. What have you found has been the result of doing things in that different way and approaching assessment in that fashion?
Well, it taught me that we think about assessment as this end, and it's not. For that particular way we do things, the students had an opportunity to let me see how they know the material themselves. And then they come together and they have conversations, and often you'll hear things like, I didn't read that very correctly. You know, I missed that. Could you say that again? And then I had one student who told me that during the AP exam, and she apologized, she said, don't get your feelings hurt. She said, but I heard another student's voice in my head the whole time I tested, and he was giving me strategies from doing the retesting in groups. So we forget that the assessment, they need to have conversations, not just when they're in groups, but they need to have conversations about the work. And the test should be the work. And so they talk about the data, they analyze the data, they come up with one answer document. They have to come to consensus. And then I scan that one, and the combination of the two, the average of the two, becomes their multiple choice score. And so they're still accountable for their own work. You can't just go in there and put all C's and think, fine, I hope I'll get with somebody who can help me. But they have the most rich and deep conversations about the work, which I'm excited. You're going to talk to some of the kids about it. I know that this is the first time this group's done it, but last year they did it the whole year. And it not only improves their scores, but their retention is higher. They understand things better. They've gotten it not from me, but from each other. And it's just probably the most positive thing I've done.
This does not seem like a typical science class. What's different about the way that you guys are learning in this environment?
Well, we use each other to learn. I mean, usually you just learn from the teacher, but we learn from each other because making mistakes, I guess, kind of helps you learn. And, like, we can communicate better with each other because we use the same, like, type of language. And it just, you learn from your mistakes.
Christian, what are you noticing that's different in this environment?
A big factor is probably the retesting in groups, because then you can see what other people think about the same topic and what they had to say about it.
So that seems to be a little unusual. Do you? I mean, I don't anticipate you would do that in other classes, that you would retest like that. So what is that? How does doing that help you learn more?
Well, we get to see different sides of the point, and which like path is the best way to go to a certain problem or a certain question about pill bugs, for example, or how they behave.
I was going to ask, what results are you seeing from doing things in this way?
Well, I think that students, you know, we do projections, and so we have an idea of where people could, as soon as they come in here, project out to test. And those projections don't stay that way. most students are able to move significantly. So we have from 1 to 5, and if they're projected, at a 2, they can move to a 3. But we saw last year that they weren't just moving 1; some of them were moving up 2 from projections. And I didn't teach any different. That's not me. So that comes from the conversations they have with each other, and we revisit the questions. And so, shh, don't listen. But they take that test with the free responses, and they come back and they've got 3 versions. So they come back and they look at the other 2. So really they do 3 tests, every test. But don't tell them that. But that lets them hear, and they work in partners, and I can hear how you wrote to that. And then I think about what you said when I'm writing, and that's stickier, than what I say.
Okay. Chris Kramer, Dobbins Bennett High School, thank you for letting us come in and spend some time in your
thank you.
classroom today.
Thank you.